But look at what we have in our country. Who's dropping out of school? National High School 2006 graduation rates. 65% of males, 72% of females. So more women graduate. In the black community, 48% of the males graduate, 59% of the females. Hispanic, 49, 58. White, 74, 79. So this high school graduation dropout rate is a problem, especially if the person gets arrested, because then the government has to take care of them from age 22 on, right? So that's a big accounts payable. How do we make that an accounts receivable? Here's something else that we started to talk about a little bit here. By 2050, the minority population becomes the majority population. Now, I don't have to tell this to you people in Florida. I understand. I wish I could speak Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, you know. But look at 2000 to 2007 birth rates. This is mind-boggling. Hispanic, non-white, 8 times more births than deaths. Asian, 4 times more births than deaths. Black, twice as many births. Whites, only 15% more births. So what we're saying here is this Hispanic wave is really critical. And I would say they will be the key, if they really do get together and they're cohesive, they could crack elections, there's no question about that. So Hispanic non-white births equals 50% of all births during this time period. Now, somebody earlier on started talking about demographics. Demographics is so key, and we don't give it what it deserves. The industrialized world is running low of future consumers and workers. It's not just the United States. Okay, of all these countries, which countries has the most out-of-wedlock births?
Most what?
Most out-of-wedlock births. Of all these, this is like the G8, and we threw in Spain, and we threw in China.
United States.
No, it's France. France, about 52% of the births are out of wedlock. In our country, it's about 42%. However, in the black community, we have a big problem. It's about 72% of the births in the black community is out of wedlock. Now look at the aging of the G7 nations. The developed world is running low, and the wealth is in this room. What happens is we're beyond our key spending years, and the majority of the wealth in the country is age 57 or above. So we don't have the monetary philosophy. Tom Woods was talking about the economist Fisher. Fisher was the economist who announced before the stock market crashed that we hit a peak and we're only going to go higher. But he also gave us the equation MV equals PT, which is the equation for monetary velocity. And the faster your money is stimulated in the economy, the better off you are. So you build that automobile plant, you get the cars out there, people buy the cars, they go on a trip, et cetera, et cetera. If you buy a bazooka, you know, you buy it with the hope you never use it, so you don't have the monetary velocity. So our country has been great because we've had the monetary velocity. That has to slow down because the rich people have all the toys they want. But now take a look at the change in population of over age 65. And if you look at Japan, which is the oldest country, their population goes from 22.8% 65 and over to 29%. Come down to the USA, 12.9% to 16.3%. We're still a relatively young nation. And why is that? God bless immigrants. This country was built on immigrants. As long as we have open borders, as long as they're honest people and so on, get documented, et cetera, et cetera. Thank God for that. We've always had hungry people. I teach an advanced finance course, and I've done it for a lot of years. The best students I have now are Eastern Europeans. I've had Asians, I've had Eastern Europeans, I've Caribbean Islanders, they all were very good. But these Eastern Europeans have gone through hell. And in order for them to get on the sports team like in Hungary, they have to be the top students academically. They're teaching me math. They come in with equations like you can't possibly believe. And why do they want to come here? Because they think there's opportunity here. Thank God for that. Okay, now can we trading partners compete without confrontation? That's really what it comes down to. And part of what I said to you, one of the D's we talk about is diplomacy, and diplomacy is really important. I don't know what Hillary Clinton is doing these days. Some people say she's ill. Other people say she's working behind the scenes. I have no idea. But we're going to hear an awful lot about foreign policy. And the problem with that is, just as George Bush, most presidents, when they come in, they say, this is what I'd like to do, and then a systematic event happens and they can't do it. One thing we do know is whenever the United States is on its backside, like with a significant recession that we have right now, somebody tries to push the envelope. So we're very vulnerable to a problem. There's no question about that. And this may throw everything out of whack. But if you just say basic economics 101, and you look at the BRIC nations, Brazil, India, China, and Russia, and the United States, look at what we have here. Here's the United States, an abundance of land, labor, capital was shrinking because of the debacle. Management is abundant. Can anybody name me 5 leading business schools in Japan? Can anybody name me 10 leading business schools in Europe? Can anybody name me 25 leading business schools in the United States? Sure you can. Isn't this disgusting? We're letting our public schools go down the toilet, and everybody wants to come here for college and graduate school. I mean, that should be the key political issue. I mean, that's a 70% consumer GDP. I mean, I don't know why we don't talk about that. Yes?
10 minutes.
10, oh, yeah. No, I want to go to questions. Okay, good. All right, so look at Russia. Land and labor. Capital, management, technology, we play with them. Look at China. Capital is abundant now, isn't that interesting? Limited management technology, we can play with them. India, going to be a great thing. They're already a democracy. Brazil looks interesting because of natural resources. Commodities are a big thing there. But I know what Tom Wood said, but here are all the monetary policy and fiscal policy. In my opinion, one reason why we created so much wealth in the 80s and the 90s was monetary and fiscal policy came together. It was wonderful. I remember when Paul Volcker, who was appointed by Jimmy Carter, and if anybody belongs in the Hall of Fame, it's Paul Volcker. He belongs in the Hall of Fame before any one of these people, including Alan Greenspan. I'll give you anecdotes about Alan Greenspan. When I was at Bankers Trust, he was one of our consultants. And I'm going back, I guess, to the early 80s. He was charging us $80,000 a year for 4 lunches, you know. And his insecurity quotient is higher than his intelligence quotient. And he is a very, very bright guy. And one day, he left his glasses in the office, and I was bringing them over to his home. He had an apartment at the UN Plaza and so on. And I go over and we're talking to him. Now, I went to NYU, he went to NYU, so I kind of knew him from NYU and so on. So he says to me, Johnny Carson lives in my building. And I'm saying, is that his big thing, right? Well, he couldn't get along with men. He always got along with women. And his 3 subordinates were all females. And if you ever have, I know some people that were at cocktail parties with him, and they say, you know, the guy just doesn't know how to talk to people. But he gets together with women. So they asked me, would I give a talk to the Female Bond Society on Wall Street? And Bernadette Murphy, who's a well-known woman, you probably saw her on Wall Street Week years ago, she asked me, would I give the talk, you know? And Alan Greenspan had just gotten married to the gal from NBC. So Bernadette gets up and she says, before John speaks, I have one question for the audience. How many out here have dated Alan Greenspan? About 35 hands went up. Guy was calling everybody for a date.